All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have a really special guest. She is a managing broker with Atlanta Fine Homes, Sotheby's International Realty, Jennifer Pino. Jennifer, so good to see you. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very honored to be on your podcast.
Well, the honor is mine. So everybody, I'm going to give you a quick 2 cents about Jennifer. And Jennifer, I'm going to hope she doesn't hold back and adds on more. So Jennifer was a real estate agent first, and she became successful very quickly in Atlanta. And she was very powerful in leadership roles throughout Atlanta. In that, she then transitioned into her role now as managing broker at Atlanta Fine Homes, Sotheby's International Realty, where while the market, obviously Jennifer is my broker, where the market has gone up 20, 25%, we have gone up 2 and 3 times that. If you look at price, if you look at number of sales, whatever angle you look at, we do 2 or 3 times better than the market's doing right now. So this is who we're talking to, and we have almost 500 agents, and you help manage all of our deals. So I cannot wait to learn from you. But that being said, Jennifer, give us your perspective, get us kind of there in your life, how you became an agent. Where did it all start?
Well, like most real estate agents, I did not go to school for real estate. It wasn't like I was a little kid that dreamed someday I'm going to be in real estate, even though now I think, why didn't I start it sooner? But, for many realtors, it's a second, third, fourth career. And so the same was true for me. I went to college, paid my own way through college. So it took me a while to get through it, but I got a fine art degree and an art education degree. And I actually paid my way through school doing accounting and contract work for like a software company, really boring stuff. But and then I taught school, I taught graphic design, I taught art. Then I started doing graphic design for an internet company, which led to interior design and which led me into staging. And that was right at the downturn in the market. So when I was presented with an opportunity for real estate, I, for the first time in my life, really had not seen myself in that role, even though my husband and I had kind of already bought and sold a few homes and I'd been through the process. I really had not had a good experience with a real estate agent up at that point. And so
Wow.
I had this image in my mind of real estate agents as the equivalent of the way in my mind at that time I viewed like a used car salesperson. I didn't see any value that they brought to the table. So there was an incongruence in my mind about how I would fit into that, because I have high standards in most things, as my children will tell you. And so,
Wow.
but
Yeah.
someone who was in real estate who I had done staging for, she was really pushing me hard and just convincing me that, no, Jennifer, you would be so good in real estate. And it seemed like whatever I would throw at the situation to say, no, it's not a fit with my family life. I have 2 little kids, or no, whatever I came up with, whatever excuse in my mind, there was something else right behind it, kind of pushing me back in that direction. And so, it was one of those crossroads in my life that was really one of the most powerful times, probably like deciding to get married to my husband. And then this was the other one. It was getting into real estate, because I'm a fully committed person. So like if I decide to do something, I'm not going to do it halfway. So for me, it was, even though I didn't have that vision of myself doing it, I felt like I was being nudged by my higher power down that path. I really did. And so I had to sit down. I remember this conversation with God that I had where I totally surrendered to it. I said, I don't see the vision. I usually have goals. I have, an idea of what I want to do, how I'm going to get there. And I said, this is the one time I don't see it, but I know that you're pushing me down this path. So here's the deal. I will follow you and I will commit to your plan, and I will walk down this path if you would just show me the way. And I was just praying for guidance. Just show me the way I need to walk every day, and I'll do it.
Wow.
It was a total act of faith on my part. I'm making it sound so dramatic, but for me, it was because I knew my level of commitment. If I'm doing this, it's going to be a career. And there I was, almost 40 years old, 2 little kids, and kind of like starting over. And as soon as I got into real estate, I realized it was really the absolute perfect fit for me. And I never looked back. I mean, all the random things I did, from knowing how to work numbers and contracts, and from understanding how that side works, from educating people, knowing how, because really when you're an agent, you're educating people on all their options and guiding them.
You've been a teacher. Yeah.
Yes, I've been a teacher.
Yeah.
All of my,
Like you
my
went back,
graphic
you
design.
were the whole time you were being set up for, and thank goodness you're
Yes.
here, because look at Atlanta Fine Homes. We're huge. We've got you're like such an amazing leader.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
all of those random things in my past that I had been doing for 20 years that I totally felt were unrelated, every single thing that I learned made me just such a good fit for real estate. And like right away, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I meant to do. It was amazing.
Wow.
That said, it was not easy. That first year is tough for everyone.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about, I don't want to miss it, your career, because it was fast, and as an agent, and then how much more you've even learned now. So you become an agent. Tell us about how you made it, what you learned that first year, how you got traction and really hit success, and then we'll go from there. Like even just like your first deal.
Yeah. Well, so I can tell you, success does not happen overnight. I really, once I kind of got started and fell in love with real estate very quickly and realized, oh my gosh, this is my skill set. This is my wheelhouse. I have talents and gifts to share. I love to serve people. I mean, I was like, yes, yes, yes. But, and then right away I took a class that we used to teach at Atlanta Fine Homes. That's a great course, and it's called Buffini. And it really helped me basically set myself up to have a referral-based business. And so for those of you that do Ninja, and there are other systems out there, the fundamentals, quite frankly, on all these different systems are the same. It's about putting people first. It's about serving people, creating value, deepening relationships, and being a professional and treating your business like a business. And so there are commonalities in many different training programs out there, but I was very fortunate to take that one first. That said, I really believed that since I'm from Atlanta, I've lived here, since I was 1 year old. I knew all kinds of people and felt like I had their trust. I just felt like the referrals were going to come flowing in, but they didn't. And I remember being very frustrated my first year because I wasn't getting those referrals. And what I did was I had to hustle, and I hustled hard. So, here I was. I had made this big dramatic commitment to God and myself that I'm going to, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it. And so, I was holding open houses every weekend. I was in the office every single morning. I would sometimes be the first person there other than the receptionist in that office. And I would, sit down at my desk and I would work on my business. But there are only so many notes you can write and calls you can make when you haven't ever done anything in real estate. It's tough. So as people would come in, I'd start talking to other agents and just, what's going on with them. And I was basically asked them how I could help them. Is there anything I can help you with? And just with that servant spirit. And you know what? My first year, it was tough. And remember, this was in the downturn too. This was 2010. Okay. So the real estate market was not good. The real estate market was not strong. But basically, I ended up taking other people's reject clients. That's how I did it. So it would either be I met them at an open house, or this, people don't want this low price lease, and or they have a lease and these renters called and want to show the property. I would take all of those people and I would do as much as I can to try and flip them into buyers. So for example, someone would have a lease and I'd say, look, if I can help, if you have anyone that calls on it that isn't represented and I can show them, I'd love to show the property. Really like hustling hard. And
keep going. I'm going to sum up what you said so everybody takes it back, but finish what you said.
Okay. So I would be really proactive. So I'd have these people that want to see this
Yeah.
particular, condo for rent. I'd call them and I'd talk to them on the phone and I'd say, well, since we're going to be out, how about I show you some others at the same time? And they'd say, sure, that's great, because nobody serves renters. You
Thank
make like
you. Yeah.
$200 serving a renter. Nobody serves renters. So that's what I would do. And I would give them full service. And how about I show you some others? And I'd line it all up. And then I would go the extra step of going online to the mortgage calculator and finding out how much could they qualify for if they're spending $1,800 in rent. What kind of mortgage payment is that? Okay. And then I would look up homes in that same neighborhood that were for sale or in that area that would be at that price. And so I'd show them first the rental that they wanted to see. Then I'd show them a few more to compare. And then the last one would be the house that I picked that's actually for sale. And they would always end up liking that house that's for sale because it's typically nicer than rental. And I'd get them in there and they'd say, we really like this one. And I'd say, well, I brought you here
That's
because
great.
this one's actually for sale, not for rent, but it would be about the same payment that you're looking to be in. And they would say, well, I think we've had some credit issues. And I'd say, well, you know what? I have someone I want you to talk to. I would stop right there, get on my phone, call the lender, and I would walk outside to the backyard. They would get on the phone with the lender, and several times I was able to sell a house my first year by doing that to people that never even knew that they could qualify for a house. And then the people that I didn't, I stayed in touch with, and I sold them a house like the next year, because then it's working on, okay, what do we have to do to fix your credit in the next year to get you ready to buy a house?
So that's beautiful, because a few things I love about that is I think a lot of people in our business are like, how do I, like, what's the trick? Like, you're going to like maneuver. No, you came in and you figured out what people needed and you helped them. But to like really sum that up into chunks, it's basically like, how can I serve you? And that doesn't mean just be polite, but like, look at your situation, have some empathy. What can I really do for you? And to do that, it's not just think about it, it's actually hustle and do it. So serve and hustle. And in serving and hustling, working hard, having work ethic, you always thought about the people, always put people first. You have a business, you do treat it like a business. It's a business. And in doing it, never forgetting the gifts that you have to offer in what you're doing. So it's put people first, treat it like a business, and leverage your gifts. And in doing that, you've got to serve and work hard or hustle.
Yes.
That sums it up. So now you did that. I mean, like, no wonder you are where you are today, because you literally come into a business and see problems and relentlessly offer people solutions, like it or not, that they really needed. And from that, now let's talk about how that transitioned into where you are today.
Yeah. So my first year, even though I worked so hard, I mean, I remember even breaking down at the year mark, because, having to hustle that hard for every single deal. And of course, most of those situations didn't turn into a sale. So I think my first year, I only sold about like 2.6 million, which is not bad, especially in 2010. I mean, that was pretty darn good in 2010, but none of that came through referral. And I had been working my sphere of influence exactly as I thought. I thought I was doing it right. And there's a good lesson here. I had, taken my course and I knew what I needed to do. But I did make a key mistake. And once I changed this one thing is when the referrals started. So I will share that with you. And that was in my first year, I had so many people, having grown up in the same city that I'm working and serving. My kids at that time were in all kinds of activities, swim team, little league. And I have been, the team mom and kind of done it all. And I had been on the tennis team and I was PTA and
all those connections.
So I had in my, sphere of influence or database, okay, many hundreds of people. And to me, they all should love me, know me, trust me, and they're all going to give me business. And so, why wouldn't they, right? But
we all know where this is going. Yeah, I love this.
It's such a rookie mistake. So I had, let's say, 500 people in my database. And so when I had been taught that I need to go through and call, everyone on my list, of course, I wasn't calling 500 people. I was calling the people that I know the best. And when I was supposed to be mailing my database every month. Well, remember, I'm right now starting out a new career, hustling so hard. Most of my deals is me making $200 or $300 after working with renters, and they didn't buy anything. So many hours, and I'm paying a nanny. It was like I felt like I was just netting even and not getting traction. So, when I'd send out a mailer to 500 people, it's $500. And what I thought at the time is that I was doing everything right. But at the year mark, when I hadn't received even my first referral, I remember just having tears in my eyes and going to my broker. And I said to him, I'm just having a bad day. I haven't even had my first referral yet. And I'm starting to think that maybe this was all a big mistake. And this was Bill Rawlings. And he said, Jennifer, no, everything, you are doing amazing. I said, but Bill, I haven't had my first referral. And he said, well, are you doing everything that you're supposed to be doing? I said, yes, I'm doing it all and more. And he said, so you're writing letters and making calls? Yes. And he said, and you're mailing every month? And I said, yes. And he said, okay, so you mailed this month. And I thought about it. I was like, no. He said, did you mail last month? I was like, no. And but I had mailed like the month before that, and then it was like 2 or 3 months before that. And I realized in that conversation that I had some work to do. So I kind of went back to my desk and I got out my workbook to look at all these things I was supposed to do, and I really analyzed, like, am I really doing what I think I'm doing, right? Am I really following the system? Because the systems work, right?
Yeah.
And what I realized is that I had so many people in my database that it was so painful for me to pay that $500 at that time when I'm paying $1,000 to my nanny and this and that. And it was like more money was going out than coming in. And so I was just kind of spreading it out. So instead of doing it every month, I was doing it like, maybe every 8 weeks or maybe every 12 weeks, like every 3 months. And I'd really only sent out like 4 or 5 mailers in my first year. And I said, you know what, I can't, I said I was all in on this thing. I can't in good conscience not give up on something if I haven't really done it the way that I've been shown. So I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to mail every 3 weeks, but first I have to be able to afford it. So I went through my database and all the people that I hadn't called because I thought, what am I going to talk to them about? I realized that those people should not be on my list. And when I went down to say, who am I really comfortable calling? And when they pick up the phone, they're going to know who I am and it won't be awkward. Well, I had like 100 people.
Yeah.
And when I got it down to 100 people, well, I can afford $100 a month. So I started mailing every 3 weeks. And within 2 months, I had someone call me and they said, Jennifer, a friend of mine gave me your postcard. I said, great. And it was someone I even had considered taking off that list of 100. It was someone I knew from the tennis team that, we had played together just a few times and I had kept her on there. And she said, yeah, she said that she's been getting these from you all the time and you're doing really amazing. And so I'd like to come talk to you. So I go see this lady, bring a glass of wine. Thank you. I go see her and she's got my postcard in her hand. We have a great chat. We have a glass of wine and we're talking, and I list her house, and that's my first referral. And here's the best part. So I get this listing and I send out a postcard to my 100 people of new listing. So now in like 2 months, they've received like 4 postcards from me because now it's a just listed, which I have never had before, by the way. I've only had buyers. So my first listing, first referral, I send out my postcard. Within a couple of days, I get a phone call from a good friend of mine who is on my list, like one of my best friends, one of my like top 5 people in life.
I love it.
And she says, Jennifer, we would like to see this house. I said, why? You're not moving. She said, well, we never, told you this, but we're really not happy with the kids' school. And we know that you are, and we love that school district. So we'd like to see it. They buy it off the postcard. I hadn't even been on the market like a couple of days. They buy it off the postcard. Now I get to sell their house. I mean, what I realized is that you can't just blindly go through the motions without paying attention to those details. I needed a smaller database. I needed to focus myself on the people that I really knew and that were really advocates for me. And then I needed to be consistent like this. And
Yeah.
because, science tells us that it takes between 7 and 12 times of repetition for people even to recognize that there's a pattern. So that
Well,
whole first year of marketing was like thrown out the window. It was like nothing ever happened at all.
wow. I mean, at the end, so it's if you're going to do it. Don't lie to yourself. But I love this because you're like, look, first of all, sit down. Wherever we are with our careers, we've got people who listen to the show who are like, do I really want to do this? They're just starting, and people doing 100 million a year. But whatever's going on, sit down, get honest with yourself. What am I doing? The next thing is, once you're honest with yourself, make sure whatever it is that you're doing, you're consistent, and make sure that you get out there. And in doing all of that, engage, get your details, and get better said, engaged, which you ended with, engage, get the details, and get focused.
Yeah. And the focus needs to be also sometimes not making your world bigger, but making your world smaller.
Yeah, smaller
really
goes
focusing.
deeper.
Yeah.
Get the traction. I can tell you how many agents on our show have said, when I make my audience narrow and deep, I get so much more traction and success than trying to spread out so wide.
It's
And
the Pareto principle. It's the 80-20 rule. 80% of your business is going to come from 20% of your people. If you're spreading yourself with the, thin with the 80% that's not going to give you business, you're missing the whole point. It's about finding where to focus and putting your energy
exactly.
there.
Well, now you're a broker of, I mean, our office is 3 offices, but you're at the biggest office. And I think you get quite a lot of the phone calls in our office and manage quite a lot of issues. How, 2 things, and tell me where we should start. How did you transition into this career? And give us some insights on what you've really learned, difficult conversations, successful agents versus unsuccessful agents, all of that good stuff. Maybe we'll start with the transition of your career into this role.
So, my first year, I think I sold 2.5. By the second year, once I figured out the missing link there with me not being consistent with my marketing, because I've been going deep with people, phone calls, coffees, lunches, but not marketing properly to the right people. Once I fixed that, the second year I closed 7.5 million. My third year I was almost 12 million. So really very consistent, big jump.
Just it works. You just got the traction and just you stayed focused, you stayed consistent.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And what I found, and continue to hustle, which is also important.
Yeah.
What I also did was, because like I told you, I'm kind of I'm a very all in kind of person. If I commit, I don't want to commit to something unless I feel like I can do it and do it well and do it right. And so, I immediately started serving, even in my first year, at the Atlanta Realtors Association. And I just joined a committee and I was there to serve. And so, on the committee, it was interesting because everyone, like, we would leave the committee meeting that month and we'd all have different tasks to do. And what I found when we'd come back together is maybe some people didn't show up, some people showed up, but they hadn't done their tasks. And I had done mine. And by the time we were done with that first year of committee, I was asked to be a chair. And from that, I mean, it was amazing how many first of all, got to meet the most amazing people, but also that was so pivotal in my path to leadership. I didn't know it at the time, but the kind of people that I met are very like-minded people that really are committed to our industry, to real estate as a career. They're brokers, they're business owners, and I didn't have any idea the type of exposure that I would get just by serving and by being willing to lead there also when asked. And because leadership is about service, right?
Yeah.
As Jenny says, people don't want to be led, they want to be served. And I was in my 4th year when I was approached by Jenny and David, and they said that they had been watching me. I had no idea. They had been watching me rise in leadership and take on roles and jump at opportunities to serve and help bring success to the Atlanta Realtors Association. And they gave me this unbelievable opportunity that I was not even looking for, didn't know that I was, could do it. And I remember when I met with them, I said, "Are you sure?" I was like,
Is that really what you said?
yeah, I was
That's
like,
awesome.
I mean, you
Yeah,
want
and they were
me?
right.
I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not a broker. And they said, "Jennifer, there are certain things that we look for. And the things that you don't have are something you can learn. The things that you can't learn, that's what you have." And that was 2015. I started being the managing broker along with Nancy here in the Buckhead office in July 1st of 2015. So 6 years ago. And
I can't believe it's been that long. Yeah.
it was really like, so it's been, 10 years in real estate now, but I've been more time as a broker than I was as an agent. And that feeling I had when I got in real estate, like this is the perfect fit for me. It's like now magnify that times 10. And that's what it's like for me to be a broker, because my favorite parts of being an agent were the serving and the solving and the looking for opportunities to make the situation better. And that's really now what I get to do all day long, which is pretty awesome.
Wow, and you're really good at it. I know everybody because she helps me all the time. So not just because I heard, but so now that you're a leader, what is two things. You've always been a leader, but now you're in a manager role. What does it take to be a good broker? And in that role, what have you seen to be a good agent? But what does it take to be a good broker? What is it that you do have that is ingrained that you can't learn? Because a lot of that's just leadership.
Well, I think there are these three traits that I heard David Bain talk about, which I'll share with you, because I think that those three traits are applicable for being a success in any role in life. But really, when we're looking for, when an agent comes to meet with us, we're looking for a combination of these three things. Okay. And it's humility. So being humble. And to me, that's having a servant spirit, detaching from the outcome, doing what's right for the person, not what's going to put money in your pocket. Right. And as brokers, especially the managing brokers at our company, our focus is not on the bottom line. Our focus is on serving the agents. And if we serve the agents, the bottom line will follow. So we are not focused on money, even though money is a wonderful result of the experiences that we have and the work that we do. So it's humility. The second thing I'd say is hungry. I loved my job. I love to work. I'm excited to go to work every day. I enjoy the people that I serve. So being committed, proactive, hungry, I think is an important trait to have as whether you're a real estate agent or a broker. And then the third one is, being smart. You got to be a trusted advisor. You have to develop systems. You've got to be able to, have multiple things going on and be able to compartmentalize. But I feel like, if you are someone who is humble, hungry, and smart, you can do very well in real estate.
Hungry. That's a good one. That's an important one. But humility, all of them are. But I wouldn't have thought of hungry. But you're right, hungry, which is that ensures that you're committed. But humility, hungry, and smart.
Yeah.
Now, and in that, I think you answered both questions. That is the common denominator of successful agents.
And I can give you an example. Okay, so like we've had, not. First of all, we work by referral in our company. We're not a recruiting company. We're so fortunate. We don't have quotas and have to make recruiting calls. It would be the equivalent of an agent who only does expired listings. That's how I envision someone who does just recruiting. They're just calling people they don't know. That's not what we do.
You can't serve your clients if that's what you're doing with your time.
Right. So when we are referred an agent, and we meet with them, we don't knock it out of the park every single time, but we have very high standards. We're looking, for professionals. This is all that they do is have a career in real estate, and they have to be a good fit with our culture. We look at that much more than we would someone's production, although we typically do not hire new agents either. But my point is saying that is this: we have hired people before who maybe they were humble, they were down to earth, they were kind, they seemed very professional, and maybe they'd had professional success in the past. Maybe it was a while back, and they were smart, so we gave them a chance. And the missing ingredient there was being hungry. And agents who come into the business that are not hungry, they're tend to be, I have noticed, a little more selective on the types of things that they want to do. So they're not just out there serving anyone who needs any help at all. They're looking maybe to be in a certain price point, or they only want to do luxury. And that's a great goal to have as the end result, but that's typically not where people start. For someone to trust you with the largest transaction that most people have financially, they're going to need to see a level of experience that you got to start somewhere. And so there have been agents that have come onto our team, and then a year later, we've rolled them right off because they weren't hungry or maybe humble enough to hold those open houses, to help renters, to do whatever it stays in the beginning. Yeah. Do whatever business is there where you can add value is where you need to insert yourself.
Well, it comes down to when you get in this business, and whatever level, if you're getting to the next level, you've got to do the things to learn. You can't just say, this is how I'm going to be, so this is all I'm going to do, because that's actually, you can't get there that way. You've got to learn. You've got to do the hard stuff. Because leadership, back to where we started, is serving. If you're not willing to serve people, and that's kind of like the test, like, are you willing to do things you don't necessarily want to do? Because that's what serving often can be and is.
It's like climbing a ladder. You don't get to the top of the ladder by starting at the fourth rung or the fifth rung on the ladder. You start on the first step. And the first step is doing the hard things, building momentum. But it's, if you can't climb a ladder without starting at the bottom. You got to start there. So a lot of people, if they're not humble or hungry enough to do that, they do not make it in real estate. And so we're looking for those things.
Wow. So this gives me a good pivot point. Another thing a lot of people don't like to do is deal with the emotions, the confrontations, and the many difficult situations that can come up in our business. And you are really good at it. How did you get good at it? And what can you tell us about, as agents, you deal with this a lot more often because you're running a huge office, but what is your advice on avoiding you probably know very well how to avoid them, but when you get in them, how to handle them?
So how to avoid them? I mean, that's a great question. I think that's what we all want to do. And I think what that takes is sometimes you just need to slow your roll. Real estate is going a million miles a minute, especially in this market. It's go, 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 next deal. And people are reacting, and they're being very reactive. What's the next thing I have to do? I think it's very important, especially at the beginning of every day, to first of all, work on your mindset. Okay. I think that there needs to be a little routine for agents to kind of start their day and get in the mindset. And that means quiet time, without the email, and be in the right mindset of, not starting the day being reactive, but starting the day, reminding yourself, what is your sense of purpose? What is your goal today? I always have like a little routine I still follow every single morning, trying to get myself in the right mindset of being grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I have, asking God to put me in the path of whoever I can serve that day, and letting everything I do be as meaningful as possible, because my end goal in life is to be the best person I can be every single day, constantly learning and growing and making the world a better place. And that sounds very altruistic, but that is truly how I feel. And that's how I try to start every day. So that when things, start going from there, it's not about me. My goal is to serve, to make things, better if I can. And I ask God to let me be an instrument of his will. So let me know the joy, Lord, of being used by you today. And so if I'm being presented with a situation, it's, where can I add value? So as an agent, it means being proactive. So when you take a deep breath and you're presented with a situation, it's not just flying through it. Just because you have a deal under contract, it's not like, fine, send that to my contract to close coordinator, I'm on to the next one. No, you need to think, put your hat on. Like yesterday at our sales meeting, we were talking about temporary occupancy agreements, which are very common in this market, but attorneys hate them because it's impossible to prove liability when things go wrong. So, did you know, because I didn't know this until, several years ago, that that if you have temporary occupancy, the insurance companies, they all just point fingers when something goes wrong, because the seller, they never took possession of the property, and it's not a rental property. That's the buyer, and the seller probably canceled their insurance, right? And now their things aren't protected. There are certain types of insurance that both parties need to have. They're not going to know that. The agent needs to think through all the different scenarios and be a proactive advisor. And by being proactive, that's where you can help for things to bubble over and become a problem in the first place. Not that everything's under your control, but being, taking a breath, being in the right mindset, slowing down sometimes, and thinking things through so that the experience is great for your clients.
Yeah, slow down, be present, and think ahead.
Yes.
Just don't hesitate, just slow. Because sometimes we think we're reacting to get the deal done, and as opposed to saying, no, we really need to play a part in this and think ahead for people, because we have experience that they don't have, and that they may not, they can't get with the number of transactions that we're doing every year. So dealing with what things do get, like it's just gonna, if and when things get tough and difficult, how do you mitigate? How do you diffuse? How do you navigate? What's your advice on that?
Well, a lot of people, when they're upset, they want to be heard and validated. So this is a little bit of Chris Voss magic too, right? So, when you have someone who's upset, I think even though you may have your own opinions on it and they may be flat out wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. If they haven't had the opportunity to voice themselves and get that off of their chest, it's going to stay in that energy is going to stay there, and it's not going to get better. So I think oftentimes if I'm called into a situation, let's say where a client is so upset with the agent, I don't have any magic wand that I can wave and make everything better. But you know what I do is I just hold the phone out here and I let them say what it is they need to say. They need to get it off their chest.
Yeah.
And then I try and put myself in their shoes, and I try to empathize with them, even though they may be wrong, right? But it's their perception. And I will let them know, gosh, I think if I were in your shoes, I can see how you might see it that way. And that diffuses things, because they just want to be heard. And then you can tell them, gently, that it may not be the way that they perceived. And you can give
it's often when they're heard and they hear themselves, that even changes their perception and backs them off. But yeah, you were adding to that.
And I think one of my favorite phrases, because it's true. I mean, I'll ultimately say, if I could wave a magic wand and make this situation better for you, I would do it in a heartbeat, but I can't do that. Here's what our options are, because they just want someone to help them to make it go away. But you're there to educate them, to guide them. And so in the same way as an agent, gosh, I wish this hadn't happened. I wish I could make it go away for you, but I can't. So here are the options, and let's think through this. And so part of me being a broker is the same as you being an agent, and that whether I'm talking to an agent or ultimately the client, mostly it's agents, I am helping them to understand their options so that they can really think things through. And that's you serving them. That's you, taking the bigger picture, right? So taking yourself out of the equation and the emotion that you might have attached to it, that has to be totally put to the side, because this isn't about you. And the agents need to remember, when they're dealing with an upset client, that client's upset, but it's not about me, right? This is about, this client has issues and they need to understand what it means for them. They're nervous, they're scared, or, anxious about it. And so it's your job is to break it down for them into chunks and pieces that they can understand, so they can put the whole picture together and ultimately make the right choice. It's not just to tell them what to do. It's to help them understand the situation.
And they won't hear it. They won't hear their options if they haven't been heard first.
Right. Correct.
But breaking it down in any situation is people want to be heard and validated. And after that, they'll choose an option, and it might be a better one than otherwise. And in our role, it's remembering going in to listen, and then so that they're heard, empathize so that they're validated. And I love when you said, I wish I could wave a magic wand, because two things about that. Sometimes I remember earlier in my career, that listening part seemed, I shouldn't even admit this, but I was like, this is just taking a long time. How are we ever going to get what they need if I just sit here and let them talk? They can talk to somebody else. I mean, how ignorant of me. But I think a lot of agents do that. And then the next one is they need to be validated. They need someone to empathize. And then you said, wave that magic wand, because that's obvious. Don't we all know you want to? No, they need to hear the person they're talking to wants to make this go away for them, because they're looking for the person that will. And you clearly are the one most capable of helping things go away, if at all possible. And the last one is, now that they've been heard, now that they've been validated, they're still in control of their situation. They're frustrated about, here's what's going on, here are our options. And now people also want to be in control and navigate themselves. It's their problem. How can I find the best solution? And they're able to interact and engage and do that, which diffuses that anger and all those issues.
Yes. And then they do feel in control, because now, they've been heard. Everyone understands that they have suffered, and they're validated. Now they see the big picture and what the different ramifications are for the different choices. And now they get to choose.
Which takes away a lot of that.
And they may ask you, what do you think? And, you can share that with them, but ultimately the decision is theirs to make.
Exactly. And that's a great advice too, is as agents, I think the common denominator is they're serving people and they care and they just want to make it go away. But there are situations where the best way you can do that is to serve. You can't you can't be them. You can't feeling bad for them doesn't take their problems away. Listening, empathizing, exploring, and offering the options so they can make the best one. Great advice. So I love that. Everybody who hasn't seen Jennifer in action, it's awesome to see you break that down. Any stories you want to give us, and then we're going to go into our final three questions, but any stories you could share with us about how you learned that and what you learned and any ahas you had? And I mean, you went from being an agent to handling so many issues. I mean, I say that like that's what brokers do. That became your job. So that's a lot of what you spend your time on. What's been any of your big ahas that you could give us or share?
I think it's just a continuation of the same, basically taking myself out of it. I mean, that has been an important aha since I started in real estate, but it's just still so important. I mean, if I got upset every single time something was going wrong, I wouldn't make it through 10 a.m. I mean, things are going wrong all the time. And, but I do empathize with the agent as they call me. I'm like, I mean, I feel for them, and I let them know that. And I think, but again, it's not about me, and I'm not experiencing it. I think it's good sometimes too. I'm just throwing this out there. I moved in like November of 2019 and had been a while. I mean, if y'all have not moved lately, I just recommend doing it, because it is a big reminder of how stressful and intrusive. It's something we all know. We deal with it all the time, but because we deal with that all the time, we just forget how bad it really is, and how everyone's emotions can be on high. But as an agent and also as a broker, we are the calm in the center of the storm. And so for us we don't need to add energy to any storm that we're in. So even if the other agent is acting poorly and unprofessionally, we don't need to go back to our clients and complain about that. That doesn't help it. It just makes it worse.
Don't feed the monster.
Don't feed the monster. You are the calm at the center of the storm. So, sometimes what that means is that as the agent, you have to do some extra work. Sometimes all the amendment writing and all of that, it's going to fall on you. In the end, though, it's going to be fine because you're serving your client. Your client's going to remember that they had this incredible experience and they're going to refer you. And trust me, if the other agent isn't doing a great job with you, they're not doing a great job with their client either, and they're not going to get the referrals. I mean, it all takes care of itself, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to give the very best possible experience to the person you're serving. And I think if you have that attitude of going the extra mile every single time in all that you do, it's naturally going to work out to your benefit, even though you're not doing it for you.
It's amazing how true that is. It's amazing how true that is. Time really shows that. It's amazing. I mean, look at your career. You are naturally that way. And that is, I mean, you've gotten in a role that there are many agents that would love to grow to that, but there are only so many spots. And you just grew right into it because look at your mindset. Look at how you think. Look at how fast your business grew. It's just like, if we just, the more we can get that into our industry, the better. Because that's what the one thing I've learned from the show is that's who the great agents are.
Well, I appreciate your kind words.
It's true. So final three. Number one, I'm trying to think which one is number one. What has been your greatest resource in your success?
Well, first would be my faith. If I didn't have my faith, I would not be here. And that resource is available to everyone. I'm not trying to be preachy about it, but oh my goodness.
It's true. Yeah.
I think sometimes, even though, of course, young people can be faithful. For me, it's been a lot of maturity through the years that has really led me just deeper and deeper into my faith. But I would say people, like surrounding yourself with the right people. And I don't mean like there's a right and a wrong, but I would say people that are like-minded. That means, around people that you want to emulate. So if there are, agents in your office who they are complaining and they're negative Nellies and they like to pick things apart, and you know what? Don't hang out with those people. I mean, maybe they're going to be fun to have a cocktail with every now and then, but don't surround yourself with people who aren't living the way that you want to live. Because, I mean, it just kind of happened naturally for me, and I'm so blessed that it did. But I can see how that affected me in a positive way, that I, steered myself towards, just by being myself, but towards people that were more aligned with my vision for my life. And it wasn't like I did that with an end goal in mind. I just I volunteered. And so I'm there with other people who have that mindset that they want to give. And that's a powerful synergy. Then you are with, that circle just grows, but in the right direction. So I think really putting yourself around people who are the way that you want to live your life. I think that's a big resource.
Wow. Number two, great advice. Number two, if there's a book that we've got to read, it can be life or career that it's influenced, what is the book?
I would say The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. I'm sure
that book comes up so much. What's your biggest takeaway reading that book?
Basically, okay, so he says your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. So basically, give more in value than you take in payment. So it's not about you getting, it's about you giving. And that is me in a nutshell. I love it. When I read that book, I was like, I was just reading something that was such a kindred to my soul. And it is true. It's the number one law that they talk about in that book. And if you live that way, you will reap the rewards.
Wow. All right, last question. If there's one thing that you hope we remember, if we're just going to forget everything else, which hopefully we don't, what's the one thing we should take away from our conversation today? Or just remember?
Humble, hungry, and smart.
Like it. Be humble, be hungry, and be smart. Jennifer, thank you so much. That was so great to have you on the show.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm going to be honest, I was a little bit nervous. I'm like, I don't have anything to say. And then now.
Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends. To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf podcast.com.